All right, today is June 29th, and today I'm going to do my June vinyl haul. This is all the records I got in June, and I got to tell you, it's a lot. It is a lot of records that I got in June. But to be fair, there are a fair few of these that I had pre ordered, and so they came in June, but I paid for them and ordered them months before. And it was a great month for vinyl. So early in the month of June, we took our kids to see the new Little Mermaid, and they loved it. My daughter loved seeing an Ariel that looked like her. She loved the songs. We loved Aquafina. We always love Aquafina, so we really enjoyed it. So I had to stop by Target and pick up the Target exclusive version. Let me put it over here of the Little Mermaid soundtrack, and it came on this beautiful ocean blue vinyl, and it's got a little bit of a swirl in there. But yeah, so that's the Little Mermaid. We definitely picked that up. Um, Heading into Father's Day, my wife asked what I wanted for Father's Day, and I told her I wanted to try this month to get the rest of the Glenn Hansard albums that I didn't have, like anything related to Glenn Hansard, the Frames, the Swell Season, any of that stuff. I said that because I had some vinyl records on pre-order, which we're going to get to here. But so that made me want to pick up the soundtrack for Once, the musical, the Broadway musical. So the movie Once, which was an Academy Award winner for Best Original Song, starring Glenn Hansard and Marketa Irglova, was adapted into a Broadway musical, and this is the Broadway cast production. And the vinyl on this is this beautiful kind of orangish brown, splatter going on here. Um, yeah, so really loved that one. And it's interesting to hear these songs performed by someone else, someone I'm not as used to. So then I ordered for myself one more album I knew I needed, which was the Swell Season's first album. So this is before they as a band were really called the Swell Season. This album says Glenn Hansard and Marketa Irglova with, let me see if I can read these names here, Maria Tukanen and Bertrand Galen. So I had this album. I even have this album autographed by both of them from when I met them. But I didn't own it on vinyl, so had to pick it up on vinyl, and I picked it up, and it's got this beautiful. It's kind of a light green. I'm gonna be honest; it reminds me a little bit of like Irish Spring soap. There's like a light green with like a richer green kind of in there as well. So this is a fantastic album. If you don't own this, I highly recommend that you pick it up. It's still available to buy. So then the next album that I got, and I've got these in order of when I purchased them. This is one I pre-ordered like a while ago, and it came in after that. And so I have the original album, and then they created an acoustic version of the album. So this is Death Cab for Cutie, Asphalt Meadows Acoustic. So beautiful album. I love Asphalt Meadows, and I really love it on acoustic. It's on black vinyl. But yeah, I was really excited for this to finally come in. And with it came a poster. We're redoing a part of what we call our playroom, but it's really, it's a room that's the one room I really get to decorate in our house. And it's also a room that's got a lot of our musical instruments in it, and a little bit more of my vinyl is in here as well. And this is the room that I'm recording in right now. And so I ordered a poster for the Death Cab for Cutie Postal Service concert, which my wife and I are going to in September, and that came as well. So very excited to have that in. So the next album, I just went to my local record store, NTX Vinyl in North Richland Hills, which is in the Painted Tree Marketplace, and I picked up a copy. I'm very glad to have this of Jack Johnson In Between Dub. So this is dub remixes of Jack Johnson's songs featuring Lee Scratch Perry, Mad Scientist, Lee Scratch Perry, Scientist, Mad Professor, Nightmares on Wax, Dennis Bovell, Yadcore, Subatomic Sound System, and Monk. And so I love Jack Johnson, you know, as they say on Saturday Night Live, the mellow man. But if you want even more mellow, this is an even more mellow version of him, and I just really, really love it. It's on black vinyl, and it just came out this last month. Really glad to have that as a part of the collection. So, three albums that I pre-ordered: Cladog Records, and forgive me if I mispronounced that word. Cladog, like the Cladog ring that's common in Irish culture. Cladog Records released three of the earliest Frames albums on vinyl, and this is, if this wasn't their first pressing, for some it was the first pressing in a long, long time. And me being a fan of the Frames, I already had a few of their albums. Getting these three makes it to where I basically am only missing, I think, three more albums. One of a couple of which are live albums, at least one of which is live album. I think there's two live albums and maybe one studio album that I'm missing, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, I digress. So they are Another Love Song. This is their first album as the Frames. Fantastic album. And it's all of these are on just black vinyl. So Another Love Song by the Frames. I love, love, love me the Frames. The second one, Dance the Devil. Several of my favorite tracks are on here. Really happy to have this. When I looked at it originally and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to foot the bill for all three, I said if I'm only going to get one, this is probably the one that I would have gotten because it had more of my favorite tracks. But luckily I was able to get all three. I was able to swing that at the time that they were on pre-order. Black vinyl again. So then the next one, and the last one that Cladog Records put out is Fitzcarraldo. So again, black vinyl. Again, several tracks I really love. So very happy to have that. So then Father's Day came along, and for Father's Day, like I said, I asked for specifically the last two Glenn Hansard albums I didn't have on vinyl. Now, to be fair, there is maybe a couple of 7-inches. There's one kind of cover album that I'm still going to try and get. But as far as full-length albums, or 12-inch records, really, I should say, these were the last two. So the first one here is Didn't He Ramble, which it says is the follow-up to his critically acclaimed Winning Streak. So Didn't He Ramble, black vinyl, some fantastic songs on here. And these are albums that I'm not as familiar with as I really want to be. So I'm so glad to get the chance to listen to them more. I've listened to them all a couple times, but really to have the time to listen more frequently and get a better handle on the songs. And then the next one is Between Two Shores. This one is a little bit of a shorter album, but a very good album as well, and a great picture of Glenn on the front. So I was very happy to have that. So my wife, what she struggles with whenever I ask her to get vinyls, is she always wants to get something that I did not specifically say, please buy this. She wants to get something that shows that she's been thinking of me and that she loves me. And so she did a great job. She kind of knocked it out of the park with this one. And I have like lots of wish lists of albums. She did pull this from the wish list, but I wouldn't have expected her to pick it. And it's a great one. So, and that's Pink Misunderstood. So this is Pink's, I believe, second studio album. And this is the album that really made me fall in love with Pink. So this has like Don't Let Me Get Me on there. This was Pink embracing still some of that R&B, but in adding in some of that alternative rock flavor, you know, really like a little bit more genre, you know, bending here into other genres. And I really loved it. This is maybe my favorite Pink album, and I love Pink so much. So really happy to have that on there. This is a double LP. It's on black vinyl, and I'm very glad to have it. So the next one is the Decemberists, the Crane Wife. Now this is one. So the Decemberists are one of my all-time favorite bands. I saw them years and years ago at Radio City Music Hall with my wife when we went on vacation to New York. My two favorite albums of theirs that I listened to the most, kind of when I discovered them, was around the time of the Crane Wife and leading into Hazards of Love. And then I went back in the back catalog and just really fell in love with them. I've wanted the Crane Wife for a long time few months ago, they brought it back and made it available for sale. And they were like limited quantity. And man, like I waited one day, got on the website, it was sold out, and I was so bummed. And so the other day, well, probably a month and a half ago or two now, they came on and they said, we have a few more available. And I jumped on and bought it immediately. And I was so glad that I got a copy of it. I believe this is just black vinyl. Yeah, this is just black vinyl. Most of my December albums are. But this is a fantastic album if you've never listened to it. This is the album that has the song O Valencia, which has this like epic, very violent Romeo and Juliet-esque music video. But yeah, so there we go. The Decemberists, The Crane Wife. Very, very, very happy to have that. Another album came out. So this is one of those albums that I'd been talking to some of my friends about for a long time. I have friends who are people who own record companies that press records. And I was like, we got to get this album pressed. And some of my good friends who are really knowledgeable were just like, it's probably never going to happen, man. Like, Ariel, the lead singer of this band, is now like a big time producer. And he's probably not super interested in other people remembering him as a member of this band. But whether he wanted it to or not, it got pressed, and a lot of us were very excited about it. Excuse me. And I immediately jumped on it. And so that is the Hippos, Heads Are Gonna Roll. Asbestos Record pressed this, in this beautiful split blue and white pressing. They had, I think, just a white pressing as well. I was really glad to get the blue and white. Last time I checked, which it's been maybe a week now, there were still a few of the blue and white pressing available and plenty of the white. So if you haven't picked up this album, highly recommend that you pick this up. This has the amazing song that everybody really loves by the Hippos called Wasting My Life. And so definitely grab a copy of this. The next album that I got, if you don't know this, I'm a huge fan of Broadway musicals. And that's something that I really share with Talina from Bite Me Bambi. And by the way, if you haven't listened to the podcast where I interviewed her, we talked a bit about Broadway musicals. So I encourage you to go and listen to that. So I really decided I needed a copy of this. I didn't have it yet, and I needed a copy of Dear Evan Hansen. Now, I got the movie soundtrack as opposed to the Broadway soundtrack. And I know for some people this is sacrilege. The original Broadway cast is phenomenal, and the movie cast is great too, but a lot of people were like, okay, Ben Platt's a little too old to play the main character, is too old to play Evan Hansen at this point. But I will say, as far as whether you think that or not, I liked him as it, but I do think he was a bit old to play the character. But whether you think that or not, he sounds phenomenal. And what's great about the motion picture soundtrack is they created a couple of new songs, and I really like at least one of those new songs quite a bit. So this is actually on a very beautiful, let's see if I can, a very beautiful translucent, it's really a kind of bright blue vinyl, and I really appreciate that and love that. So this is a double LP. Wait, is it a double? It might be a single. No, it is a double. Okay, I was thinking for a second I was wrong. Yeah, so this is a double LP. The second LP, a lot of it is actually like famous musicians covering the songs from Dear Evan Hansen. So let me pull this out for a second. We've got, once we get through the cast, we've got You Will Be Found by Sam Smith featuring Summer Walker. We've got The Anonymous Ones by SZA. We've got Only Us by Carrie Underwood and Dan and Shay. We've got A Little Closer by Phineas. And we've got Waving Through a Window by Tori Kelly. And so, I mean, I love this musical. I cannot complain about having more people that I love doing the songs from this musical. So, yeah, that was a fun one to kind of grab a copy of. And I do hope to continue to build my Broadway collection out. You can see I've got two here from Once and Dear Evan Hansen. So, all right, the next one is one that I've been debating buying since December, and I finally just bit the bullet and went for it. I'm so glad I did. This is Ben Harper, Winter is for Lovers. Now, I love me some Ben Harper. This is, by the way, white vinyl. This is a very beautiful album. So Ben Harper, if you're not familiar with him, he's kind of an interesting artist. He's a mix of like folk and alternative, and there's even some deep soul in there. But this album, one of the things Ben Harper is well known for is that he plays lap steel guitar, and this album is an instrumental album of lap steel guitar. It's just him and his guitar, no vocals, and each track on here is named for a city that he loves, and it's just so beautiful and sparing and simple, and I love it so much. And I think this is an album that I will play over and over and over again, especially when I want to just chill out. So I'm super glad that I got this. If you've ever heard Ben Harper's album, Both Sides of the Gun, one of the albums is this very beautiful, more mellow album, and the other's a little bit more raucous, a little more rock and roll. And I always really loved like Morning Yearning off the mellow side, and this is in that vibe, but without vocals and even more simple. So the next two, I ran out of sleeves for. I've got more sleeves on the way. But this one's a really interesting one. This album, I was alerted to a sale. I believe it was the Sound of Vinyl that was doing the sale. And essentially, they had a whole bunch of albums that you could literally get for free. You just had to pay for shipping. And I went looking through the albums that they had, and there was a lot of stuff that was really great, but wasn't really my thing. I wasn't really interested in. And then this one caught my eye, and I was like, that's the one. That's the one I'm getting. So this is a double LP black vinyl, and it's only 3-sided. The fourth side is just blank. But I am, so happy that I was able to pick up this album. And the album that I am referring to is Harry Connick Jr., True Love, A Celebration of Cole Porter. So I love Harry Connick Jr. I love that kind of pop vocal sound, the crooners and stuff like that. And I've been wanting to pick up some Harry Connick vinyl anyway. However, this would not have been necessarily my first choice to get, and I'm still so glad I got it. So this has Anything Goes, I Love Paris, I Concentrate on You, All of You, Mind If I Make Love to You, Just One of Those Things, In the Still of the Night, Why Can't You Behave, Begin the Beguine, To Be So, You'd Be So Nice to Come Home To, True Love, You're Sensational, and You Do Something to Me. It's gatefold, double LP, black vinyl. But yeah, I'm super, super stoked to have this and can't wait to get it in a sleeve. This is a beautiful, beautiful album. And I got it for $8 shipped, so I can't complain about that, right? So, the last album that I got for June, and I do have some albums still on pre-order, which I'll talk about here in just a second. The last album that I got in June, I'm very excited about. I've had some friends that already had this album, and I had to do a little bit of research on it, but Verve Records does this series called the Acoustic Sound Series, and essentially that Acoustic Sound Series is like the best quality that you can find of some really specific albums. Now, I love jazz. I don't have a lot of jazz albums, but what I love even more than jazz is like samba and bossa nova. That kind of really fits. My family on my dad's side is Portuguese, so I've always felt a connection to this music from Brazil, even though my family's from Portugal. And so I couldn't turn down this record. I'm super glad to get it. This is Getz and Gilberto. So it's Stan Getz and João Gilberto featuring Antonio Carlos Jobim. And it is really like one of the key albums if you're a fan of jazz or bossa nova and samba. It says here, Acoustic Sound Series, audiophile vinyl reissues from the world's greatest jazz label, mastered from the original analog tapes by top mastering engineers, manufactured at Quality Record Pressings, or QRP, on 180-gram vinyl, gatefold sleeves printed at Stoughton Printing Company. And these sleeves, by the way, it's like the thickest, best quality you can possibly imagine. These guys ship the record out with the record in a really high-quality inner sleeve. I am going to change out this outer sleeve and see if I can get that hype sticker to go with it, or I may just put this inside of a better outer sleeve. But it came in this outer sleeve sealed, and you literally just tore the top off, which I think is pretty cool. But the outer sleeve's really thin. I'd like something a little thicker on there. So Getz and Gilberto, that is my last pickup of this month. And I'm so glad to have it. What a phenomenal album! This is the album that has the girl from Ipanema. It's got Desafinado, Corcovado. Yeah, lots of great songs on here. Very happy to have that album. So just kind of a heads up to give you an idea of what I currently have on pre-order. Um, and this, I mean, I might have one of these come tomorrow, but if so, it's just going to end up on the sort of July album wrap up. But what I've got coming right now is I've got Lecrae's Church Close 4 is on the way, which is Christian hip hop. I really love Lecrae. I think he's phenomenal, and he's got he's got an Andy Mineo feature on there that I really love. I've got Taylor Swift's Speak Now Taylor's version on the way, and that should be here early July. I've got another Verve Acoustic Sounds record, which is the album is Stan Getz and Charlie Bird, and it's called Jazz Samba, which I'm really excited about. And then I've got Blindside, the Swedish hard rock band, their album Silence on the way. So those 4 albums are on the way and could be here at any time. Again, I'm so grateful to be able to continue to grow my record collection. I have a really loving, understanding wife, and of course we budget to be able to do these things. And I just can't wait to continue to grow it and listen to these fantastic albums. Check back in here at the end of July when I do my July wrap up. And until then, have a great day. Check out the podcast, like, comment, subscribe, all those things I'm supposed to say for you to do. And don't forget to check out the podcast and the YouTube channel. Have a great one.